Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gotama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/supportbuddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our group learning program, and we're in Chapter 2 of our book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This chapter is titled, Why Study Gotama Buddha's Teachings? And if you've read that chapter, or if you plan to read it after class, you're going to see all the things that I share of why it would be important for somebody to study the teachings of the Buddha, and actually how to study the teachings of the Buddha and what the benefits are. Today's class, we're going to start with meditation, and then we're going to move into a discussion about this particular chapter and about your reasons why maybe you've chosen to study the teachings of the Buddha. You'll see how I do this class a little bit different because we just restarted this program about 6 weeks ago, and now is a great time for us to have a nice conversation together. But as I mentioned, we're going to start with meditation, so I'd like to welcome all of you, whether you're joining for the first time or you're joining regularly. You're welcome to learn here and grow and develop your practice on the path to enlightenment, learning the teachings of the Buddha. So we're going to start with breathing mindfulness meditation in order to help you to develop that practice. And then next week, we will do on Sunday loving kindness meditation. And each Wednesday, I'm doing this 4-part series of loving kindness meditation, so you can be learning that. But today we're going to be doing breathing mindfulness meditation, and then next week we'll do loving kindness meditation with some breathing mindfulness meditation in there. So if you'd like to join for the meditation, you can take a position that's comfortable. The positions for breathing mindfulness meditation are seated, lying, standing, and walking. The walking position I haven't really taught through the group learning program, but I have videos and I have other ways that you can learn that if you'd like. So if you'd like to take a position either seated, lying, or standing, these are where people usually learn most often, in the seated position where you're sitting on the floor, you're sitting in a chair, but you could even be sitting on a bench or a sofa or something like this. You'd like your lower body to be comfortable and your hands and arms to be comfortable. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable, you could use it, but it's not about everybody doing it exactly the same way. You may not find that comfortable. So you might decide to put your palms on your thighs, on your knees, maybe your palms up. Some people like to just rest their hands comfortably in their lap. The upper body should be erect. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. It also helps you breathe, because if your sternum's up and your shoulders are back, you'll be able to breathe nice and easy in through the nose and out through the nose. So I'm going to ease in the meditation with some chanting, which, remember, this isn't mystical or magical. It's not a prayer or anything like that. It just helps to ease the mind into meditation, and I'm going to be teaching a 4-part series on this here in about another 2 weeks. Then after the chanting, I'll give you some guidance in the meditation. Then there'll be a period of time where we'll just be meditating together, and then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting as well. And then from there, we'll go ahead and start the rest of our class, and we'll have a nice discussion about why study Gotama Buddha's teachings. So if you'd like to join and you know these chants, you're welcome to join along in the chanting, and then afterwards I'll be back with some guidance on the meditation itself. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Abhivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะหะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสตาตาวามานุสรังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then when you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาพุทธังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you'd like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, I'd like to welcome all of you to our class today, whether you're joining for the first time or you've been joining regularly. If you've just recently joined us as we started meditating, welcome to all of you guys. Today's class is the group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I come together with students and help them to understand the path to enlightenment and how to train your mind to get to this enlightened mental state. Because all of the teachings of the Buddha are to guide you towards training your own mind to be able to awaken to the enlightened mental state where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You no longer experience any discontent feelings. All those discontent feelings of anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, even the slightest displeasure is eliminated from the enlightened mind. And this comes through training of the mind. The teachings of the Buddha, it's not about believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. The Buddha didn't teach rules and commandments about, what you're required to do and things are black and white and you need to follow what he says. And he's not sharing teachings in that way. He's not sharing the way the world should be, and that if everybody follows these rules and commandments and the world will become peaceful. He's explaining to you the way the world is. This is what his teachings are actually sharing. And by learning the way the world is, you can awaken to that wisdom, and then you won't have struggles and difficulties in the world. Because it's a real struggle, and it's very difficult to live in a world that you don't understand. So by understanding the natural laws of existence, you'll be able to experience the peace and the joy. So the Buddha's teachings are having you look inward and train your own mind. Essentially what you're doing is you're healing from what hurt you so that you never need to ever hurt again. But you need to be able to understand what actually is hurting in the mind, what's causing these painful feelings. Because in the unenlightened state, we will typically blame this on something external. We will blame it on other people. And when other people are around us and we're experiencing some contact, we experience these feelings that are either conditional pleasant feelings, painful feelings, or neither painful nor pleasant. The unenlightened mind will typically falsely attribute those feelings to something external. And when you're experiencing painful feelings, you'll typically push people away or push a situation away. You might be bitter, harsh, and hostile towards people, or you might put your expectations on people. And none of this actually solves the problem. You just stay stuck in this constant cycle of experiencing feelings where the mind's going up and down all over again. So the teachings of the Buddha are helping you to be able to see the wisdom that your mind is actually causing these discontent feelings itself, and then he's providing you the tools and techniques of how to solve that. And he already did that for his own mind, and he knew what the tools and techniques were that actually improved the condition of his mind to get to this enlightened mental state. And then he spent 45 years from the age of 35 to 80 sharing those teachings to help other people to experience this same mental state. So in this particular chapter 2 of Why Study Gautama Buddha's Teachings, you can read it and see all the various things that I share about why study Gautama Buddha's teachings, what you would accomplish, how to actually approach the teachings, and numerous other things that you'll learn in this particular chapter. When we come to this particular chapter, I don't actually really teach anything, so to speak, in terms of the classes, because why study Gautama Buddha's teachings, it's really up to you to decide that. For me, I decided to study Gautama Buddha's teachings because my mind was highly discontent and I was interested in solving that. And the goal was to get to enlightenment. So that, in my opinion, should be everybody's goal if they're going to approach the teachings of the Buddha. But why you choose to study Gautama Buddha's teachings is up to you. And rather than teach you all the various details of why I chose to study Gautama Buddha's teachings and making that kind of sound like maybe I'm trying to convince somebody to study the teachings of the Buddha, that's not what I'm interested in doing whatsoever. Instead, the teachings of the Buddha are here for you if you decide that you're done with the anger, you're done with the sadness, you're done with the frustration and the guilt and the shame and the fear and the stress and the anxiety, the loneliness, the boredom, all those discontent feelings that you experience. If you're done with all of that, the teachings of the Buddha are here for you. And each individual student needs to decide for themselves that they would like to step in and actually learn and grow and develop. It's an independent practice. While you need teachers and guides to guide you along the path, it's your individual choices that are going to lead you to enlightenment. A teacher is not here to convince their students of anything. I'm not here to convince you or force you or control you or give you any kind of rules or commandments. I'm here to support you, encourage you, provide you the guidance that you need on this path. Essentially, a teacher is like a tour guide. We're essentially pointing out the things that you need to understand, and then it's up to each student to decide to learn those things and grow and develop, train their mind through meditation, yes, but all those other 8 factors of the Eightfold Path. So when we get to this chapter of the book, because we just restarted the group learning program, we're 6 weeks in, what I typically like to do is I like to have it be a discussion. Even though I consider all of the classes that we have are a discussion, I really like to just turn over the class to all the students. Those of you guys in Zoom, those of you guys in Facebook and YouTube, you can participate by sharing why is it that you've chosen to study the teachings of the Buddha. And this is something that you can maybe think about and kind of warm up to as I share something with you that's from this particular chapter that you're going to see if you end up reading this chapter. But I'm going to share something with you as you are maybe thinking about what you would like to share. If you would like to share, maybe you can use this as an opportunity to say hello to your fellow classmates, get a chance for us to know you a little bit. If you're in Zoom, you'll be able to electronically raise your hand and open up your microphone and let me know that you'd like to share, and then you can share and we'll all be able to hear you. If you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can also put it in the comments section and I'll be able to see that and I'll be able to read it and let people know why it is that you've chosen to study the teachings of the Buddha. But as we're going into this particular topic, I would like to share something with you from the chapter 2, where I share a particular simile or a story that the Buddha shares during his lifetime. Because the Buddha was teaching how rare it is for you to come into this human state. and that it's very helpful for you to be able to get to enlightenment now that you're in this human state. Because in other existences, if you're not in the human or heavenly realm, you're not able to actually get to enlightenment. And all of us have been reborn countless times. Even if you don't know that right now, maybe if you don't have the wisdom to understand that, maybe you've had some brief memories of like things like deja vu, which are residual memories floating to the surface of the mind, where you've actually recalled something that you're doing and you know it's so utterly familiar, but you know it wasn't in this life. This is residual memories from your past lives that are surfacing. So right now you might not have all the various wisdom to independently verify the teachings of the Buddha around the cycle of rebirth, but I can assure you that each one of us have been reborn countless times. And when you get to that point in your development on the path, you'll probably approach that cycle of rebirth and you'll independently verify it and understand how to do that. But in the meantime, the Buddha shares this simile where he helps students to understand how rare it is for you to have obtained this human state. And for now, you have the opportunity to be able to now make your way to enlightenment. And I'd like to share this little analogy with you, or this simile that the Buddha teaches in his own words, because it illustrates how rare this human existence is, so that you don't allow it to go to waste, so you don't allow complacency to set in, that you realize that you have a golden opportunity here to make your way to enlightenment if that's what you choose to do. The title of this is called Rare That One Obtains the Human State. Monks, suppose that this great earth had become one mass of water, and a man would throw a ring with a single hole upon it. An easterly wind would drive it westward, a westerly wind would drive it eastward, a northerly wind would drive it southward, and a southerly wind would drive it northward. There was a blind turtle which would come to the surface once every 100 years. What do you think, monks? Would that blind turtle coming to the surface once every 100 years insert its neck into that ring with a single hole? It would be rare, venerable sir, that the blind turtle coming to the surface once every 100 years would insert its neck into that ring with a single hole. So too, monks, it is rare that one obtains the human state, rare that a Tathagata, which is a Buddha, an Arahant, a perfectly enlightened one, arises in the world. Rare that the teachings and discipline proclaimed by the Tathagata shines in the world. You have obtained that human state, monks. A Tathagata, an Arahant, a perfectly enlightened one, has arisen in the world. The teachings and discipline proclaimed by the Tathagata shines in the world. Therefore, monks, an effort should be made to understand. This is discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand. This is the cause of discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand. This is the elimination of discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand. This is the way leading to the elimination of discontentedness. So what we have here is a simile where the Buddha is explaining how rare it is for a blind turtle to come up to the surface once every 100 years and insert its neck into this ring. Because if you think about the whole world is flooded and there's this one single ring floating around on the surface, and once every 100 years this turtle comes up to the surface, it's very rare and unlikely that that turtle is going to put its neck into that ring. And that's how rare it is for one to obtain this human state. And once you obtain this human state, you have an opportunity to be able to make your way to enlightenment. This is the ideal existence, to be able to get to enlightenment. But oftentimes people are lost in sensual desires and their ill will and all the other things that might be taking them in all these different directions, that they don't spend time to learn and practice and develop and train their mind. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he was awake and he was there to share the wisdom of what it took to be able to get to enlightenment. So people that are living during the lifetime of a Buddha, this is a golden opportunity to be able to get to enlightenment. Not only is it rare to become a human, but to become a human during the lifetime of a Buddha is extremely rare. And this is an opportunity for people to be able to now make their way to enlightenment, because the teachings would be very deep and very profound in the world when a Buddha has arisen. Because a Buddha gets to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. Then they dedicate the rest of their life to sharing those independently discovered teachings with countless people. And then they preserve their teachings so that other people can get to enlightenment after that person's death. So during the lifetime of a Buddha essentially puts lights down along the path, making it very clear of what it takes to be able to get to enlightenment. So living during the lifetime of a Buddha is extremely rare, and it's very, very helpful for you to be able to get to enlightenment because the teachings would be shining in the world. And then you can see there at the bottom where the Buddha says, okay, now that you've become a human, now that these teachings are being taught by a Buddha and that they're shining in the world, you should make this effort to understand the Four Noble Truths. That's what he's pointing to there when he says this is discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand the cause of discontentedness, the elimination of it, and the path forward. That's a kind of a simplified way to point to the Four Noble Truths and say, start there. That's the beginning of the path. If you ever went hiking before and there's like a sign at the beginning of a trailhead and it kind of shows you gradually, generally what it is that you're going to encounter on this trail, the trailhead is marked with a particular map or some guidance or some instructions to kind of give you an idea of what this trail is going to be. It goes out, takes a loop, goes across a stream and a bridge, and maybe circles back to the parking lot. Well, the Four Noble Truths is that trail marker. It's at the beginning of the trail, helping you to understand that your mind is causing your own discontentedness, and you can actually escape from this. That when you understand what's causing these feelings, you can actually eliminate them. But in the unenlightened state, with a lack of wisdom, we don't understand the Four Noble Truths. We don't understand that our own mind is causing these feelings, so we will tend to blame this on other people, and we will push people away, or we'll push a situation away. But that doesn't solve the problem, because you just get agitated or annoyed again, or you might be bitter, harsh, and hostile towards people. That doesn't solve the problem. That actually usually ends in broken relationships. Or you might put your expectations on people, trying to control them and pressure them to do things your way. This also doesn't work, because when people feel pressured and controlled, they're not interested in being around that. So as long as the unenlightened mind is doing this, it's going to stay stuck in this continuous cycle. The teachings of the Buddha is not about blame or fault or anything like that. It's just about recognizing true reality, that your mind is unenlightened and it continues to misunderstand what's actually causing the problem. It doesn't have the wisdom to understand how to train itself so that it can experience this peace and joy, this liberation of mind that is the enlightened mind, where the mind can be focused, concentrated, have clear memory, can have clarity of mind, deep memory. You can have personal, professional relationships that are really blossoming, that are ease. We don't know how to do that because we lack wisdom in the unenlightened state. But the teachings of the Buddha are here for you to learn, reflect on, which is independently verify and practice. You're not believing things and hoping something good happens when you die. You're actually learning and practicing now. So being in the human state is the ideal opportunity, because you experience pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and feelings that are neither painful nor pleasant. So those painful feelings can almost be like motivation to help you and encourage you to actually get to enlightenment. Where let's just say you only experience pleasant feelings. You were only ever experiencing conditional happiness, right? You're still unenlightened. You're still experiencing discontentedness, but you're only ever experiencing conditional happiness. If that was the case, you wouldn't really have much motivation to be able to learn and practice, because those pleasant feelings are quite pleasant. But in the human state, we're in this rare existence where we do experience the conditional pleasant feelings, but we also experience the painful feelings, and we also experience the neither painful nor pleasant, and we have the ability to actually get to enlightenment. So it's wise to make an effort to understand the Four Noble Truths and be able to have that breakthrough to being able to understand that your mind is causing these discontent feelings. So 2 weeks from now, we're going to be starting chapter 4, where I'm going to be once again sharing the Four Noble Truths, because by that point, it will have been about 8 weeks since I've taught the Four Noble Truths, and you're going to need to hear that multiple times. You're going to need to have that soak in and learn how to practice it. And then in chapter 5, we're going to learn the Eightfold Path again. But next week, we're going to be learning chapter 3, which is what is enlightenment. I'm going to be going in detail about what enlightenment is, because I haven't done this yet. So this is where the real heart of this program and the real heart of this book really starts, is with chapter 3 and beyond, where you're going to start learning what is enlightenment, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the Middle Way, the 5 precepts. You're going to learn about the 3 poisons, which is going to broaden your understanding and deepen your understanding of what's truly plaguing the unenlightened mind. We're going to go in and study the natural law of karma directly. We're going to learn about what is merit. We're going to learn about meditation training. You're going to learn how to identify your cravings. We're going to go through all different kinds of things. You're going to learn these 4 healthy mental states. You're going to learn about true love, love without attachment. You're going to learn about the ego and how to dissolve and eliminate the ego. You're going to learn about how to eliminate fears. There's many things that we're going to be doing as we go forward on this path in this program. But here at the beginning, what I've done so far is kind of laid a foundation to help you understand what that path is. And now we're kind of going to talk about, why study Gautama Buddha's teachings? I'm interested in learning from you. Why is it that you've studied? Because next week, I'm going to go into, from that point forward, going chapter by chapter by chapter, as we're starting to do here, and really getting into the heart of the book in the path to enlightenment and guiding you towards eliminating all these discontent feelings. And if you're doing the work at home to learn, reflect, and practice, then you're going to see results. It's only a matter of time. I've had students that have studied in this program, and they've said within 8 months, their discontentedness was half of what it was when they first started learning. So if you're doing the work, you'll experience results. You may not experience those exact same results, but you'll experience results because the teachings of the Buddha truly work. So during the lifetime of the Buddha, the reason to study his teachings was to get to enlightenment. That was the ultimate goal, was to train your mind to experience the peace and joy and get liberated and escape all of these discontent feelings. And that, in my opinion, is still the goal. But I'm interested in hearing from you guys and giving you guys a chance to talk and have discussion. So if there's anybody in Facebook and YouTube that would like to come into Zoom and talk, you're welcome to do that. You're welcome to come in and have any kind of conversation that you would like to have. For those of you guys that are in Zoom, if you'd like to electronically raise your hand and share, this is a great time to get to know each other and have discussion. So I'll just open up and turn things over to all of you and see if there's anybody that would either like to share why it is that you studied the teachings of the Buddha, what's brought you to this particular program. If there's any questions that you have at this point, anything you'd like to ask or anything you'd like to discuss, you can bring that up. So in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can put your question or your comments into the comment section, or in Zoom you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions and just open up your microphone and we'll all be able to hear you. So is there anybody who would like to share, or anybody has questions about anything you'd like to discuss?
David, this is Steve. I'm not finding the raise hand, but I'd like to speak if that's okay.
Yeah, it's wonderful. We can hear you.
Okay. So just a little bit about my journey. I sort of realized at an early age that I had a lot of discontent feelings. And as I progressed through life, school and college and a career, it seems like that those discontent feelings sort of compounded. And I think that, my struggle was that I always thought that if I achieved a certain level of success, that I would be, quote unquote, happy. And as I, made my way through the business world and career and progressed upwards and, ultimately made more money and had more things, I realized that it didn't really impact my discontentedness. In fact, it just increased it. The more things I had, the more things I had to worry about. And so I started personally getting involved in what I guess you would call motivational type books. And one of the common threads that ran through those that I always found interesting was the guidance that was given was to be present, to live in the now. And this was Dale Carnegie and all the different motivational type writers always said that was a key to happiness, was to be present. And I sort of latched onto that and tried to practice it, but had a really difficult time with it. More recently, I read the book The Power of Now, which is all about presence. And it's a book that's completely, the entire concept of the book is about presence. And I found that very helpful. A lot of the tools and techniques and rationale and the fact that the present is really, according to this author, was the sole reality, was something that I latched onto. And I had always sort of been interested in Buddhism, but it was sort of to me, sort of a mystical thing. But the next thing that I elected to study was Buddhism, because as I understood it, it also had a lot to do with practicing presence. And so as I got involved in that, I found that, different teachers, different authors, different people that delivered material on Buddhism, I found that a lot of it contradicted itself. That a lot of had to do with prayers and rituals and different things like that. And you'd listen to a different sect, and they'd have different prayers and different rituals. And although I found the concept in my mind to be like really valid, something I really wanted to pursue, I had difficulty with the contradictions. And then one day I was just searching podcasts to try to study this, and I stumbled up upon yours. And so I'll just conclude with this. I've really, in the last year and a half or so, that I've followed your teachings or your explanation of the teachings, I've found it to be very helpful. And I found that for me, the teachings of the Buddha to be very simplistic, very clear, very, methodical, whereas as a practicing Catholic, which I am, you really have to dig, and there's still the contradictions there. So, I guess what I'm saying here is that I've very much enjoyed following, your explanation of the teachings. I want to continue that. I consider it a life journey. And I think that the fact that, we're studying the actual words of the Buddha from the Pali Canon, to me, is the differentiator that really is something that I found the most valid of what I've studied, and I will continue to eliminate discontent, and hopefully am on the road to enlightenment.
Wonderful, Steve. Thank you for sharing. If I could ask you a few questions just to kind of draw out a couple of things, would that be okay?
Of course.
Okay. First of all, where are you from? Where do you live? What kinds of things do you do?
I'm currently in New Orleans, Louisiana. I have a home in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and a condominium in New Orleans, and we have a son that lives over here, which we're visiting this weekend. But I'm still working. I'm 66. I'll be 67 years old this year. Still gainfully employed and have a business and stay very busy. And this is, these teachings are helping keep me grounded.
Okay, wonderful. Well, you shared such great content about your thoughts and kind of what brought you to the teachings that I was really just curious of asking you those questions so that other people could get to know you, because obviously you and I have talked before privately, so I know some of these things that you've shared, but it's helpful for other people to get to know you as well. So thank you for sharing. And there's people here on Facebook that are saying thanks for this important discussion and the chance to hear from each other in the community. That's from Amina. There's another gentleman that says, thanks for giving me a chance to think about the real valuable subject. And we just had something come in from Mayu Lee as well, which I'll read in a moment. But I see somebody just raise their hand in Zoom. So if you'd like to go ahead, it doesn't show your name, but if you'd like to go ahead, you're welcome.
Hi, this is Julia. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Teacher David, for helping us walk through this path. So I'm in my 30s, and I guess I was born a Buddhist. I'm from the country of Myanmar, where the majority of the people are Buddhists. And I basically had my first kid and had a lot of suffering, physical. And my husband actually was trying to help me. He's actually Hindu, but he was trying to find some podcasts to help me through breastfeeding journey. And he found your podcast. That was about 3.5 years ago. And then, that brought a lot of peace. I would listen to it whenever I was driving. And the same thing that you said, which was interesting, I guess the suffering, I should be thankful in a way, because if I was really happy and everything was okay, I wouldn't seek another spiritual source, I feel like. So the suffering kind of reorients me. So then work and stuff was kind of stressful, and I would listen to the teachings. And then I had my second kid, and that's when I found the link on your email website about the group learning. And that's when I wanted to get more involved, because I found that whenever I listened to your podcast or your teachings, it brought a lot of sense of calm, just listening, not even actively meditating. Sometimes I would, but when life gets busy, it's hard for me too with the 2 kids, but I just felt like the sense of calm that I didn't feel with anything else, like materialism or things that people in this capitalist country of the US would promote: bigger house, bigger, nicer car, all of these things. I just found really bring that sense of, they would bring exhilaration, but no sense of calm. And that sense of calm is just so nice, just that you don't desire anything and you're content. And it comes and goes for me, especially when I listen to your podcast. So that's something that motivates me to pursue this path. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Julia. You were hitting on something there that Steve was talking about as well, about, how oftentimes we're taught that bigger house, bigger car, more money, more friends, more jewelry, more shoes, all these things is what's going to bring happiness. And eventually you get to a point in your life where you have those things and it's like, whoa, I'm not any more happy than I was before. In fact, like Steve mentioned, oftentimes you're more discontent because now you've got all these things and you've got to ensure that they stay with you permanently because the mind is holding on to them so much. So, oftentimes we've been led astray. People just don't understand what they don't understand. So oftentimes we're out there chasing after so many things that we get lost in that, and we don't realize that the real happiness comes internally, that we try to seek that happiness externally. And that's where the lack of wisdom is really affecting us, because you can't get to permanent happiness by anything external. It all comes internal through training of the mind. So thank you for sharing that. That connects up with what Steve was sharing as well, and give us a chance to get to know you a little bit. I didn't realize you were from Miramar, so it's nice to know. You're in US and I'm here in Southeast Asia, so we've kind of swapped. All right. So thank you for sharing, Julia and Steve. If anyone else would like to share, you're more than welcome. I see some things coming in here, so I'll just read these. We've got one from Mayu Lee on Facebook. She's actually been studying for quite a while now, getting closer and closer to a year here that she's been studying. So here's what Mayu Lee says. She says, "Hello, teacher and classmates. This is my second round taking this class. I am so grateful for having found this class. I never found any teaching as profound as the Buddha's teachings. From learning, reflecting, absorbing, and practicing the teachings, I see huge improvements in my life, in my relationship. With that said, I have a long way to go. My goal in this life is to reach the 4th stage of enlightenment. If I'm not successful in this lifetime, I would like to continue in the next lifetime, in the next life, given that I'm born into human or heavenly realms. Thank you so much, Teacher David, for all your support and guidance in guiding us towards the light. I'm so grateful." Oh, you're very welcome, Mayuli. Pleased to help you. And it sounds like her reason for studying the teachings of the Buddha is to get to enlightenment. And that's, what the Buddha would have taught during his lifetime too. Here's one coming in on Zoom. Or there might be more than one. Oh no, it's just one from Brent. Brent says, "My apologies. I spent the time before class trying to solve my microphone issue to no avail, impermanence. I got into the teachings because I encountered a couple of problems in my life I couldn't solve in my usual ways. I started a life practice of meditating twice daily, no matter what, with a focus on Buddhism. Once I started bringing the teachings into my life, things started changing. It was very hard to find the true teachings being based in the USA. They were all filtered through a bunch of Western thoughts, media, and authors with many different meanings and explanations. Finding your books, David, with everything laid out so clearly in your personal guidance to the teachings has truly accelerated my practice. I still have a lot of work to do, but can clearly see the path laid out before me. Many thanks." Oh, you're welcome, Brent. Nice to hear that you're finding some answers to the things that it is that you need in order to learn and grow and develop. This is wonderful that you're finding those answers, because from everything that I've studied, I agree with you. I agree with what Mayu Lee shared, that there's nothing more profound than the teachings of the Buddha, that I haven't found anything else on the face of the earth that you can learn it, you can reflect on it to independently verify yourself that it's true, and you can practice it and see the results now in this life, where oftentimes we're taught believe, and something good will happen when you die. Well, the teachings of the Buddha is like, hey, you learn now, you reflect now, you practice now, you get the results now. This is great, right? And in a world of misinformation, which is what we talk about a lot, right? Misinformation in the world, in a world where belief has led astray, in a world where we're looking for instant results. While the teachings of the Buddha, it's not instant results. You definitely can notice in meditation, even just one session, you can notice things shifting and changing. But nonetheless, I think the teachings of the Buddha are like perfect and ideal for this time and place, because we have so much misinformation in the world. You're not interested in believing anybody. So you can independently verify the teachings that I share with you. And through your practice, you can see that they actually work. So you get that results now. It's not in your afterlife that you're going to experience some benefit. It's no, you're going to experience the benefits now in this life. And this is how you know you're headed in the right direction, that you see the improvements to the condition of the mind and the condition of your life, which is what you and Mayu Li are talking about here. So this is really wonderful. It looks like Steve is sharing something here, and then we'll go to EY. He has raised his hand in Zoom. Steve says, forgot to express gratitude, so thank you, teacher, and thank you to the students for joining in this journey. Yeah, you're welcome, Steve. Pleased to help you. Okay, EY, if you would like to go ahead. I think, Julia, you have your hand up. I don't know if that's something new or if maybe that was just up from before. But EY, if you'd like to go ahead, and Julia, if you have something else, you're welcome to keep your hand up, and I'll call on you after EY.
Hello, I'm EY, so I'm actually from Singapore. So I was born as a Buddhist back here, so my primary exposure back then was in Mahayana Buddhism. So it's like doing a lot of things like rituals, prayers, wishing, things that basically does not align with what the Buddha was teaching in his life from Teacher's David teachings. So I guess I didn't really understand the true teachings of Buddhism itself. Just pretty much stuck in superstition, trying to practice what I've learned back here, in Singapore from my parents and things like that. So I am following Teacher David since late 2022. So probably this is my 4th round doing the foundation course. So, I always had painful feelings, really want to get rid of worries, depression, sadness, due to some childhood incident. I wasn't too great in interpersonal relationship. Of course, when you meet people who come and go, not everybody is going to agree with what I'm doing or how I act, in whatever situations, how I interact with people. So whenever they start to ignore me or berate me or criticize me and things like that, I used to be very, very depressed. I don't think that I was in any kind of clinical depression, but most of the time I was feeling very depressed, very sad, self-doubt, a lot of self-blame, thinking about what could I have done better? Is there anything that I've done wrong? Things like that. So it's like a lot of very strong self-view, lower self-esteem, what I have, dealt with for, the past 40 years of my life or whatnot. Of course, when however other people, treated me, obviously they have their own craving, desires, attachment and all that, so that somehow, caused them to react a certain way towards me. Of course, I have some other friends who, stuck by me throughout my whole life, still keeping in contact, and, I'm happy with them, but there are always pockets of people who somehow didn't agree with what I do. So, throughout the 4th round of the foundation studies, initially when I was going through my 1st round, it's like, I listened to teachers' teachings. Didn't really understand it, didn't really practice it, just tried to incorporate it in my life, tried to practice it. I didn't, I just got lazy, just got complacent. And then, some things happened, and then, I decided to step in and try to understand what Teacher David was talking about. And then I tried to meditate and slowly incorporated some of the teachings, that I taught, and then tried to get rid of my own factors, self-existent view and things like that. I meditated. So right now I felt that, my state of mind has improved quite a bit. I tend to let go of things a lot easier. Last time how I was is that, I can dwell on things for days, for weeks. I'll spiral downwards, I will dribble into it and not knowing what to do, just wasting a lot of time. So I think, the meditation definitely helped. So, throughout the 4 rounds, my 4th round of, foundation studies right now, felt that my state of mind has improved quite a bit, and then still trying to get rid of self-existent view better, and then I still have a lot of sensual pleasures. I still have my weakness for alcohol, materialism, capitalism, like everybody else, and things like that. I just find that there's a lot of challenge and a lot of work that I need to do. But as this 1.5 years goes by, I will continue to practice what Teacher David is teaching. I would definitely feel a lot better and improve, make wise, try to do that at least. I don't want to be so fucky in whatever situation, and a lot more neutral or at least pleasant. I won't say, okay, maybe it's the wrong word to say pleasant feelings, because it's all part of discontentment. So maybe, as time goes by, I make a wise decision. I will be contented with what life is, and then hopefully to work towards enlightenment. That's what I'd like to share.
Okay, thank you, EY. Your internet connection sounded like it was breaking up a little bit, but I got everything that you were saying, but just let you know it was breaking up a little bit. I didn't realize this was your 4th time having gone through the group learning program. I think I remember the first time that you didn't really practice the teachings. You just kind of listened, right? You're just kind of trying to hear like, what's going on with this guy? What's he sharing? What's this guy doing in Thailand, sharing the teachings? But then as you started to actually practice them, that's where you've seen the real results, would you say?
Yeah, so it's like, to be honest, the very first time I saw you, I didn't expect a Caucasian to teach Buddhism. It's something which is, I was expecting, Thai people, Burmese people, Chinese monks, Tibetan Buddhism, Tibetan lamas and things like that. So you didn't come as somebody, at the norm, to teach Buddhism, but after going through what you taught, and how to use technology. I've always told you how to use technology to reach out the teachings, and even one-on-one teachings with me. It's really, really benefit most from what I learned about Buddhism from you. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sometimes we joke here in Thailand where sometimes people come to learn, and obviously there's lots and lots of people who come to learn. It's interesting that Asian people tend to learn with me a lot. And once in a while, there can be people of Western descent or Caucasian that maybe they feel like learning from another Westerner isn't exotic enough. Maybe that's kind of what you were thinking, that, hey, this isn't exotic enough. He doesn't have tan skin. He's not wearing an orange robe. But I can assure you that what I share is the original teachings of the Buddha, and they'll work for sure. So there's kind of like this natural filter. So the people who come to learn with me, anybody who learns with me, they will have had to have eliminated their ego to a certain degree, and they would have had to eliminate their judgment of other people to a certain degree. So by the time somebody chooses to learn with me, they've already reduced some of those fetters or some of those pollutions in their mind, which makes it great because the people that are learning with me, they're sincerely interested in learning, and they're not judging how I look or what I wear or where I live or anything like that. So it's great when students come to learn. And what I'm finding is there's a lot of Asian people, like at the temple, what the people have told me is that there's a lot of Chinese people who come. I would say 80% of the people who come to learn with me here at the temple in Chiang Mai are Chinese. And I asked them, how did you find out about teaching? And they have this app in China called the Little Red Book. In this Little Red Book, from what I understand, is kind of like maybe Instagram and Facebook or Yelp reviews, kind of like all mixed in together. And apparently some people have put some really kind reviews there. And now there's just massive amounts of Asian people and Chinese people that coming to learn. And of course, there's lots of Westerners too. In the local community, there's Westerners here and stuff like that. So I'm not preferential to any kind of person who learns. I'm just interested in people who are sincerely interested to learn. If they have determination, dedication, and diligence, I'm here to teach somebody, no matter where they come from, what their gender is, what their race or nationality is. I'll teach anybody and everybody. And it's wonderful each week to get together here online with you guys and at the temple, because I live stream from there too. and share the teachings, because I know with 100% certainty that these teachings of the Buddha actually work, and they will lead to improvement in your life. They will lead to your enlightenment if you investigate them close enough, either in this life or some future life. You'll be able to see that his teachings lead exactly where he said they do, which is this peace, this calmness, this serenity, this contentedness, and this joy. You can see it in your own life, and it's just gradual training and patience to be able to gradually make your way to that enlightened mental state. And along the way, there can be struggles, there can be difficulties, there can be challenges, but as you clear those things out of the way, you get more and more wisdom and experience improvements in your life. So thank you all for choosing to learn and dedicate your time each week and during the week to learn and grow and develop as well. I'm not seeing any other comments anywhere. I don't know if there's anyone else who would like to share. I'd like to just be sure we give everybody an opportunity who's interested to share to actually share. Okay, I'm not seeing anything anywhere else. So there we go. Julie, go ahead, Julie. You have to unmute yourself. We're seeing your lips move, but we don't hear anything because your mute's still on.
Okay, sorry, on a tablet. Everything doesn't work all the time.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm usually not a real show my face kind of person in certain circumstances, but I kind of want to today just because I want to encourage some of the other people that have already talked here on Facebook or on Zoom to Steve and Julia and Brent and everybody, EY, kind of like to see you and have kind of a sangha going here. And because I think it's more fair to you, David, that you don't have to sit and talk to a blank screen all the time. But anyway, I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I'm 71 now. And I started out as being raised as a Lutheran Missouri Synod, so next to Catholic. And we went religiously, so to speak, every week. But the thing was that for like 6 years, all through junior high and high school, my father, who was an elder in the church, sexually abused me. And so from that into adulthood, I really suffered a lot emotionally from that, and really had poor self-esteem and all this good stuff. So that by the time I was in my, say, 30s or something, by that time I was just very suicidal almost every day. It was just a constant living on the edge kind of battle. But anyway, by the time I got, out of high school and into early 20s and stuff, I was curious about a lot of different paths. And so I kind of checked out, tried to, learn a little bit about Hinduism and Judaism and Islam and Taoism and Buddhism, everything that there was, and kind of did a cursory little review and stuff, and decided that the Taoism and Buddhism seemed to make the most sense to me as far as having a view towards the world and not a lot of made up stuff or extra stuff. Because the one thing I found in growing up in the church was that it was that thing of, if you had a problem, well, just pray more or whatever. Whereas in Buddhism, you have skillful means. You have lots of actual hands-on directions on what to do that actually help, that make sense, that you can start doing, and almost immediately start seeing some degree of improvement in your situation. So for a long time, I read about stuff, but I didn't really practice, for decades, really. And so probably in my 50s or something like that, 50s or 60s, I actually started doing more practice. And by that time, I had already gone through having been in psychiatric and, all this stuff for therapy for years and put on medications and all this stuff. And actually really started meditating heavily then in, early 60s, and got off of all the medications because I found out, in fact, that I had been put on a medication that had been found to induce rage in people. And I was feeling that, this inner thing from this chemical in my body and stuff, and nobody would listen to me, and I had to take myself off of it and the other meds. And, actually practice, I felt, really brought me a lot more aware and helped me get through all of that. But then after that, I had a lot of physical issues too, and COVID came and all that stuff. And so I kind of ended up being really weak physically with some other issues, and kind of stopped doing the practice. So now, a couple of years ago, I saw you, ran into your stuff on the YouTube, I think, and wasn't quite really ready then. So now kind of came back when I felt more ready to really get back into practice. And I'm just glad to find that the tradition that I had found most useful for me, that you're in that way, and that my teachings that I had learned were really coalescing with what you're saying. So I feel like I'm on the right track, and found people that know the right things that to learn from. And so I've just been back now with you for about 6 weeks here, but I look forward to continuing. And again, I would just kind of encourage some other people to turn their cameras on.
Yeah, it's always nice to see faces. Yeah, thank you, Julia.
Hey, hi, Steve.
There we go.
Thanks.
Steve turned on his camera. It's always nice to see faces, when I'm teaching. I've learned to be able to teach to whatever situation. I know you guys are there listening, and maybe in your underwear, maybe it's your night clothes or something like that, right? Because I know that that's what I did sometimes during COVID period, not when I was teaching, of course, but different times we have our COVID gear, right? We just kind of like wear clothes from the waist up. So yeah, you guys are always welcome to open your cameras. You're always welcome to ask questions, and it's really lovely each week to come together with you guys and share the teachings. As I mentioned, I know for sure that the teachings of the Buddha lead exactly where he said they do. Everything I share with you guys, I've confirmed it in 4 different ways. The first way is that it's in the original teachings of the Buddha, the Pali Canon. The second way is I've learned it and practiced it for myself, and I saw the results that it had for myself. And then I started sharing it with other people, starting with my family. I started sharing it with my son and my wife and people close to me here, but then ultimately with students, and all those people are seeing results as well. And then the fourth way that I've confirmed what I share is that every now and then, as Thai people learn about what I'm doing, they'll kind of come up to me and they'll say, "Hey, you're a teacher, right? You teach the Buddhist teachings?" And they'll say, "Yeah." And they'll say, "Well, what do you teach for meditation? Or what do you teach for the Four Noble Truths? Or what do you teach for the Eightfold Path?" And I'll kind of explain it to them, and they'll say, "Oh, I was just at a temple for 2 weeks, and everybody knows that the head monk at that temple is enlightened, and we all know that he's enlightened, and what you're sharing is the same thing that he was sharing, but he was speaking in Thai and you're speaking in English, but I know that what you were sharing is exactly the same thing that he was sharing." So everything I teach has been confirmed these 4 ways, so you can have confidence that what you're learning is the truth. But then, of course, I teach you not to believe it, that I saw it in the Pali Canon. I've deeply studied the Pali Canon. I didn't believe it. I practiced it for myself. So I know that that's what you need to do too. You can't believe what's being taught. You need to get to wisdom. But then I've also shared it with countless people at this point, and countless people are experiencing benefits. And then the Thai people share with me, like, yes, this is what we consider to be the teachings of the Buddha. And this is why Thai people support me. This is why they embrace me. This is why they ask me to teach at the temple, and they invite me to different events and stuff, because they know that I'm teaching what the Buddha actually taught. So you can have that confidence, but still don't believe anything that you learn, reflect, and practice. But you can know that the books and the discourses that I share and the way that I talk in the discussions, this has all been well vetted, that I wouldn't share with you anything that I haven't actually tested for myself. Anything that I share with you, whether it's a meditation or any aspect of the Eightfold Path or the 5 precepts or anything, I've tested all of these kinds of things. And that is how I know that it absolutely works, and this is the actual truth. Because if it works for me and it works for other people, it's going to work for you too. So as you guys learn and grow and develop, you're always welcome to ask questions and get help, maintaining confidence that yes, what you're learning is from the Buddha. But as I share teachings, what I share with you in some cases may conflict with what you currently feel that you know, what you currently feel that you think about and that you currently maybe have even learned in other places. What you learn from the original teachings of the Buddha will oftentimes conflict with certain things that you are currently thinking. And that's actually really good. If you're in an environment where everything that the teacher says you already know and you already agree with, you're in the wrong place. You're not growing. You're not learning there. So if you hear me ever share anything, you're like, whoa, I don't understand that, or that doesn't sound right to me, or how does that work? You can always ask questions and ask for clarity. And you can even ask questions like, David, how do I independently verify what you just said is true? Because I've independently verified all these things, if you're not seeing how to independently verify it, I will share with you. This is how I independently verified it. So if I was able to do that, you'd be able to do that too. So as your guys are learning and growing and developing, I'm here to support you and encourage you. I'm that tour guide pointing out the things that you need to learn. And as you guys choose to do that work, then you'll be able to see the results. And why study Gautama Buddha's teachings? Because they work and they lead to enlightenment. I didn't say that in the chapter, of course. I didn't just give you 2 sentences like that. But essentially, that's it, right? They work and they lead to enlightenment. And nobody enjoys being sad and angry and frustrated and agitated and annoyed and feeling guilt and shame and fear and stress and anxiety. We don't like those feelings. So this is the escape for you of how to get away from that. And as you choose to pull these teachings into your life, you'll be able to see the results. So let me check one more time to see if we have any other people that are sharing here. It looks like Julia. We have a Julie and we have a Julia. So Julie just shared, and now Julia is sharing a comment here too. She says, I have a question about Eckhart Tolle, the author of Power of Now. His book brings a lot of peace also, but he is not Buddhist. I'm sure he read some of Buddha's teachings though. Is he spontaneously enlightened or also an enlightened being? So I wouldn't comment on another person of whether they're enlightened or not. That's not really my place to comment. I know myself because you're able to determine whether somebody's enlightened or not, but it wouldn't be wise for me to comment on his enlightenment. And I understand your question's coming from a sincere place and you're just interested to know, but I'm sharing this with you because if anybody ever asks you about another person's enlightenment, then you'll know how to reply and how to respond to that. So Eckhart Tolle is obviously doing what he thinks is wise and what he thinks has been helpful for him. You know, he's sharing that with other people. And I applaud anybody who's out there in the world sharing something that has been beneficial for them and then ultimately trying to help other people. So I applaud all those people that are doing that, whether it's Eckhart Tolle or Dalai Lama or anybody else. And, you know, the Pope Francis, I think his name is, and all these different people, they're obviously sharing what they think is going to be helpful for others because it was helpful for them. In terms of what the Buddha taught, that's what I focus on. I know Eckhart Tolle, he kind of puts a lot of different things together, but for me, I just strictly keep close to what the Buddha taught because I know that that's what leads to enlightenment in this peaceful and joyful mental state. But you'll see lots of different people that are out there teaching a lot of different things, but you can independently verify these things. If you learn the Buddha's teachings, it'll actually help you to understand better what other people are teaching, and you'll actually come to a conclusion yourself, Julia, of whether or not Eckhart Tolle is enlightened or not. In terms of spontaneous enlightenment, this is something we can talk about. This actually matches in really well with next week, what we're going to be talking about too, but we can talk about a little bit here is that there is no such thing as spontaneous enlightenment. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. You can't just instantly get to enlightenment, that there needs to be some work and development and training of the mind to cultivate wisdom. People will talk about spontaneous enlightenment and sudden enlightenment, but this isn't actually enlightenment. What actually happens is as you're making your way to enlightenment and you're training your mind, you can have these sudden shifts in consciousness. This can occur. Some of you may have experienced these at different times in your life where you just have this sudden shift in your perspective and how you look at the world, and it's like monumental, and it's like, whoa, that's really profound. And there can be a certain amount of peace and a certain amount of joy that comes in with that, a certain amount of calmness that comes in with that. But in those situations, the mind is not yet enlightened. The individual is still experiencing discontentedness, but there's some people that think that those sudden shifts are enlightenment. So they're describing what they're experiencing as enlightenment. So this is where you can have some people that will describe enlightenment as you still experience anger and sadness and frustration and irritation. And this isn't true, but someone who's had a sudden shift thinking that that was enlightenment, and knowing that they still experience anger and sadness and all those other discontent feelings, they will oftentimes explain enlightenment as someone who still has agitation and frustration and annoyance and things like this. So while people do talk about spontaneous enlightenment, it's not actually possible to spontaneously get to enlightenment, because there needs to be a cultivation of wisdom, a development of the mind to gradually make its way to this fruition or this maturity of the mind. The Buddha refers to this as maturing in release. It's kind of like, I know this isn't necessarily a Buddhist analogy, but you'll understand it. It's kind of like a fine wine sitting on a shelf, maturing, and it becomes to the point where it tastes better and better and better as it matures. Well, the same thing is true about your mind. As you soak these teachings into the mind and you practice them and you cultivate the mind, it matures, and then the fetters release, those pollutions release, and this is where the peace and the joy is coming in. And you can have these sudden releases where the mind shifts, but the mind's not yet enlightened yet. When you actually get to enlightenment, there's not like 1 minute ago I was unenlightened and now this minute I'm enlightened. You'll see that the qualities of enlightenment gradually increase, and the unenlightened mental aspects, they gradually decrease. And there's not really a sudden moment where you could say, okay, a minute ago I was unenlightened and now I'm enlightened. You wouldn't be able to actually say it that way. So you gradually work towards enlightenment, and never convince yourself that your mind's actually enlightened, so that way you can stay diligent and dedicated and determined to continue to grow, because you'll grow and gain a lot of wisdom on the path to enlightenment. And if an individual convinced themselves that they were enlightened, you might kind of become complacent and give up on those things. And if the mind becomes complacent, then the mind's not enlightened. So if you've developed this multiple year journey of pursuing wisdom, and it's led to this peace and joy, you'll continue to grow wisdom, right? Like there's lots of things to grow wisdom about. By the time you get to enlightenment, your mind is functioning so optimally that no matter what it is that you're interested in doing in the world, you'd be able to do that. So for example, say like all through your life in the unenlightened state, you've been interested to fly a helicopter, but you never had confidence. You never thought that you could actually get the technical background and understanding to actually fly a helicopter. By the time you get to enlightenment, your mind will be functioning so optimally, and you will have learned and solved the very biggest problem that you've ever had, which is the discontent mind. You'll have so much confidence in your ability to learn a collection of teachings and implement those in life, that if you're interested in going and learning how to be a helicopter pilot and then implementing that in your life, you'll go do that if that's something that you really aspire to do. So no matter what it is, whether it's opening a new business or any other number of things that someone might aspire to do, as you're making your way to enlightenment, your mind's performing optimally, that you'll be able to do all those kinds of things. But it's not spontaneous. It's a gradual thing that the mind experiences. So great questions there. Let me see what else we might have coming in here. Let's see. It looks like we have some things coming in here. Here, Martha in Dallas, Texas. David, thanks for sharing the words of the Buddha into our lives. Yes, you're very welcome. Pleased to help you. Here's some more from Amina. She says, very grateful for this community. Thanks for starting and supporting the growth and development of this beneficial space, David. Yeah, you guys have a lot of appreciation and gratitude today. This is nice to hear, but just understand that I'm here to teach you regardless. Really wonderful when you guys are so appreciative and so respectful in your thoughts and in your comments. But just understand that I do this because I have compassion for all beings, which is concern for the misfortune of others. I see the misfortunes that people experience, and I once experienced all those things as well. And I'm interested in sharing with you how to escape from that. And I also share based on loving kindness, which is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. Active goodwill. That's the reason why I teach. I don't know if you guys have watched the videos where people interviewed me about getting to know the teacher. You guys are always welcome to ask any questions about me that you like. And students interviewed me at 2 different times, and there's videos and podcasts about my background and my life. But just a little bit for you is that at one time I was in business, and I actually had quite a bit of money and quite a bit of investments and all these kinds of things. And I eliminated all of that and moved towards the teachings of the Buddha. And now I just live my life very basic and very simple. And I do this not for money, not for fame or fortune or notoriety or any kind of acknowledgement from students. It's always nice when students share their appreciation. That's really wonderful. But just know that I'm here to help you regardless of what you ever share with me. And just pleased to help all of you guys and see you all grow out of loving kindness and compassion for each and every one of you, but also other beings in the world too, because as you learn and practice, it's helping you, it's helping those close to you, and it's helping all of humanity. I see Joe has his hand up. If you'd like to go ahead, Joe.
Hi, Teacher David.
Hello, hello.
Thought about not raising my hand. I wasn't sure what I wanted to say. Second time around, I'm a carpenter and I live in Arizona, or I have lived in Arizona for a couple of years. And I'll keep it short. I had a really skewed way of looking at reality, and which made it really hard to understand, I guess, what was going on around me, and maybe why people were doing things the way they were doing them, or I guess it kind of made me isolate myself in a way, because I don't know, I didn't think things were wrong with everyone else. Maybe it was more of, what am I doing wrong? Or I feel like everybody had some secret that I didn't know, or something was missing, and I wasn't able to be content. And I looked around and it looked like other people were, and I just couldn't quite figure it out. So anyways, following you, has helped me over the last couple of years see what's happening around me and being able to understand and interpolate. So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. It's nice to have you in class again, and nice to share the teachings with you. And as we were talking, it sounds like you might be coming to Mexico when I'm down in Mexico in September. There's various courses and retreats that you guys can all attend. And Joe, being in Arizona, I think Mexico is probably closer for you than the East Coast, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, let's see what else we've got. I think we have something coming in on Zoom. Something about Arizona here too, Joe. Oh, okay. Maybe Brent is from Arizona. He's just sharing that. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to end class here by once again thanking all of you guys. That's what I do is I have a lot of appreciation and gratitude for you guys, that as you're learning and practicing, it's helping you, it's helping those close to you, and it's helping all of humanity. And I know some of you guys are even supporting the work that I do through donations and financial support and your time, effort, energy to help me. So thank you so much. This is what allows me to continue to share and do the things that I do. So thank you for your generosity and supporting me to be able to actually support you. So you helping me is actually helping yourself, because all of that help just comes back to you. So thank you so much for your gratitude and your appreciation and your respect, and thank you for your support in sharing the teachings of the Buddha as well. And I have a whole lot to share with you over the coming months as we dive deeper and deeper into this book and into the program and into the teachings of the Buddha. So next week, we're going to be in chapter 3, which is titled Enlightenment. What is enlightenment? Here that you're going to dive into understanding what enlightenment is, because if you were going to go to a new town, if there's some town like 4 hours away and somebody said, hey, let's go to this town, you'd probably say, well, what's there? What kind of things will I see? What's going on there? So if you understand what enlightenment is, you'll be able to more readily navigate your way to it. And once you understand what enlightenment is, when you arrive to enlightenment, you'll know that you're there. If you didn't know about what enlightenment is, you wouldn't even be able to make an educated decision about whether it's even something you're interested in pursuing. And once you pursued it and you attained it, you wouldn't even know that you've attained it if you didn't know what it was. So I start off the heart of the book with chapter 3, explaining what enlightenment is so that you can understand it and you can decide, is this a real journey that I'm interested in going on? And once you get there, you'll know that you've actually arrived. So it's the same thing as if you were traveling to a city or something like that. So that's what we're going to be studying next Sunday, and you're welcome to read before or after class. Some people read before, some people read after, some people read before and after. So it's really up to you, whatever you would like to do. And that will help you, because there's certain things in the book that aren't in the class, and there's certain things in the class that aren't in the book. So you're welcome to read. And then on Wednesday, we're going to be doing the third part of our 4-part series on loving kindness meditation, where I'm helping students build that up. So if you can't attend live on Wednesdays, I think you guys know that these are recorded on our YouTube channel, in our Facebook Facebook group and our podcast. You can digest that at whatever point is available for you to be able to build up your loving kindness meditation. And even when you're listening to those recordings, it's really helpful to actually do the meditation along with the recording, because this will help you to build up your practice. And then as you guys need help, you can ask questions in class. You're always welcome to do that. You can post a message or make a post on our Facebook group, and I'll answer your question there. You can send me a private message if you like, or you can schedule personal guidance by going to our website. You'll see all the different links where you can schedule an appointment and we'll meet in Zoom, because it'll show you available times that's based on your time zone. And then when you schedule that, then I'll get a message and then we can meet in Zoom one-on-one, because it's one thing learning in classes like this, but it's another thing applying it to a specific situation that you're having. That's a real opportunity for you to gain wisdom. So coming to class, reading the book, this is generally helping you to build up your wisdom about the teachings of the Buddha. But when you're struggling, when you're having difficulties, that's a time to reach out to a teacher. And even before that, maybe you're going into an important meeting. Maybe you're getting a divorce. Maybe you're going on a job interview. Maybe you're going to consider buying a new house or a new car. I'll never tell you what to do. I'll never make a decision for you, but I'm just here to consult with and provide you advice based on the teachings of the Buddha. So you guys are welcome to reach out at any point that you like. So thank you all for joining each week. Thank you for your dedication. And as you need help, feel free to reach out. So perhaps I'll see you guys in one of these future classes. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee khap.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.